The Soccer Gambling Podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Underdog. Get up to a $1,000 deposit match when you sign up at UnderdogFantasy.com and use the promo code SGPN. That's UnderdogFantasy.com and the promo code SGPN. You are listening to the EPL show here on the Soccer Gambling Podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. You can follow the Soccer Gambling Podcast on X at SGP Soccer. That's at SGP Soccer. You can follow the Sports Gambling Podcast Network on X at the SGP Network. That's at the SGP Network, and also at Gambling Podcast. That's at Gambling Podcast. The Sports Gambling Podcast is back with their 32 NFL team previews. They're also bringing back the phrase that pays. Each episode, they'll give out one word of a 32-word phrase. Submit the phrase for a chance to win a $1,000 Circa Future. So make sure you listen to those 32 podcasts previewing every single NFL team. Don't just listen for yours. Listen to all of the shows so you can get a head start on the upcoming NFL season. Don't forget, the easiest way to make sure you never miss any of the free picks or any of the free pods from anybody on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is to download the SGPN app. It really is the most convenient way to never miss any of our free picks or any of our free pods. If you're looking for additional free picks and free pods from me, then search for Lock Betting both on YouTube and wherever you get your podcast. There's a Lock Betting podcast. There's a Lock Betting YouTube channel. There is also now a Soccer Gambling Podcast YouTube channel. So I have been posting Premier League recaps and Premier League previews for all of the top teams in the EPL. So if you're not subscribing to the YouTube, you are missing out on very digestible, short form content that you could watch in 60 to 90 seconds, giving you information for the season ahead. Obviously, we're going to give you some here on this show. This is kind of a purgatory show. It's not a recap. It's not attached to last season, but it's also not too attached to the upcoming season. This definitely isn't episode 1 for the upcoming season. This isn't your futures preview for the upcoming season. This is just going to be a look at the transfer market, and we're going to see how the transfers teams have done, and how busy they've been or how not busy they've been, and how that's affected their futures odds, if at all. And we're also going to look at the top 4 market as well. So the outright winner of the league and the top 4 market as a result of the transfer activity. And we're also going to look at prospective transfers that might get over the line between now and the start of this Premier League season.
Welcome back to Sky Sports News, and we begin with huge breaking news coming out of Arsenal, and it's the news that their fans have been waiting for since the transfer window opened. They have signed Victor Gyökeres from Sporting on a 5-year deal that could reach a total of £63.5 million. Gyökeres has become one of the most in-demand strikers in Europe in recent years. The 27-year-old scored a remarkable 54 goals in 52 games last season, and after months of speculation, he has finally signed for Arsenal, who end their search for a goal-scoring striker. The Sweden international will now join up with the rest of his teammates in Singapore. Now, after finishing second in the Premier League last season, Arsenal have made a huge push this summer. Gyökeres joins Noni Madueke, Martin Zubimendi, Christian Norgard, Christian Mosquera and Kepa Arrizabalaga as new arrivals at the Emirates. It takes their spending to almost £200 million. Now, Gyökeres outscored all the big names across Europe last season with 54 goals in all competitions for Sporting, plus 13 assists. He scored 10 goals more than Kylian Mbappe, 12 more than Robert Lewandowski, 13 more than Harry Kane, and 20 more than both Mo Salah and Erling Haaland.
So Arsenal bring in Victor Gyökeres. They get their man. They finally get their number 9. And could this potentially be the most pivotal, the most game-changing signing of the window? I can't think of a greater example of a team needing something and potentially solving that issue by getting exactly what they need. Obviously, there have been a lot of great signings by other clubs. Some major business has already been done, and we're going to break it all down. But is there a more important signing than Arsenal getting their striker and securing the signature of Victor Gyökeres? Before we do break everything down, let me let you guys know that we are brought to you by Metaspins Sports. That's spelt Metaspins, Metaspins Sports, and that is your destination for crypto sports betting. Sign up today and get a 100% risk-free bet. Plus, you'll also receive a $25 bonus on your first deposit. And you can get started today by going to metaspins.com/sports. That's Metaspins, spelled metaspins.com/sports. And you'll get a 100% risk-free bet when you sign up today. And as I said, you'll also receive a $25 bonus on your first deposit. So one more time to get started, head over to metaspins.com/sports. That's metaspins.com/sports.
It's interesting, right, that I was saying to you guys earlier that about a year ago, I was chatting to a Swedish fan at Arsenal. He was at a game. And he was saying to me, at that time I was saying to him, we need to get Isak. That's who we need to get. Bring in Isak. That could help us to win the league. And he was saying to me, no, Robbie, what we really need is Gyökeres. He goes, for Sweden, Gyökeres is the main man, not Isak.
Yeah.
He goes, for Sweden, Gyökeres is the guy who plays that right down the middle. He's our centre forward. He was saying to me that Isak almost operates wide.
Yeah.
Or they play in almost like a 4-4-2 to accommodate Isak, he was saying, which surprised me.
So we don't often drop a clip from Arsenal Fan TV. Obviously, people find them to be very biased, very delusional, and pretty much everything that's wrong with football fan content. They are even massively unpopular with the Arsenal fans and often have to hide their faces to avoid certain sections of the Arsenal fans. Those hardcore Arsenal fans obviously have an issue with Arsenal Fan TV because they find them embarrassing. They think they are damaging the reputation of the club and they are cashing in on the club, particularly when the club is doing badly and they can have aggressive rants on their channel. Obviously, the numbers are higher because then you have supporters from other clubs who are more interested in seeing what they say. And the hardcore fan bases don't like these fan channels, but Arsenal Fan TV is the originator. It's one of the biggest, and whilst I don't respect their opinions, here Robbie did actually hit the nail on the head. I do believe that is the situation for Gyökeres and Isak, and if that's the case, that makes Gyökeres a bargain at around about 63.5 million when Liverpool are looking to pay around about 120, 130 for Isak. And that move for Isak really does blow everything up in terms of what I was going to talk about, in terms of a lot of the content I've pre-recorded and am releasing onto YouTube. I just did not see Alexander Isak wanting to move this summer. I thought that he was settled at Newcastle. Obviously, he's a proven Premier League goal scorer, and that might make him a little bit more valuable than Gyökeres. I'm not sure if he should be double the price, but that is what it's going to take for Liverpool to get him away from Newcastle. The question I have is if you've signed Ekitike for Liverpool, which Liverpool have done, and have spent a ton of money bringing him in, and I'm not sure his numbers justify that price tag. I'm not even sure that Wirtz's numbers justify his price tag. So Liverpool, for me, have overspent a lot. Whilst they have bought in quality, I do believe they've probably paid about 25 million too much for the two main players they bought in. And they're about to do the same for Isak. But where is Isak going to play? Robbie alluded to him playing wide for Sweden, which I'm sure is not his preference. And is he going to come in as a 130 million pound player and actually play wide for Liverpool as well? That remains to be seen. I know Ekitike can also do a job out wide as well, but both of these players are supposed to be out and out centre forwards, and both of them will prefer to be playing down the middle. And you don't want to sign for a new club and suddenly be played out of position. But that does look like it could potentially be the situation at Liverpool for one of them, because whilst this Alexander Isak thing I think is going to go on and on and on and is going to be the story of the window in the end, I do eventually think Liverpool will get their man. And their starting 11 is going to be super strong when it comes to personnel. Obviously, you have Alisson in goal. You can play with Bradley or Frimpong on the right. Konate will still partner Van Dijk. You've got Kerkez on the left. He's going to take the left-back position from Robertson. Who plays in midfield remains to be seen. I'm leaning Gravenberch alongside McAllister to give that backline more protection, which means Slobosai could potentially be out of the side, because there's no way Wirtz isn't going to play behind your striker. There's no way Mo Salah won't be out wide. We know Luis Diaz is going to Bayern Munich, so that means Isak or Ekitike will be one will be wide and one will be the centre forward. And obviously these are massive signings, and obviously Liverpool are still the favourites in the market to win the Premier League, to go back to back as a result of doing this significant business after winning the Premier League last year off the back of doing no business. Essentially, Slot ended up winning it with Jurgen Klopp's team, and now he's brought his signings in. Liverpool are the favourites to win it again, but not as wide as you would think. I've heard people talking about it being a foregone conclusion if they get Isak. Well, they're 1-5 minus 500 to sign Alexander Isak, but that hasn't pushed them any short, hasn't made them any shorter to win the Premier League title. They're still available around about 6-4. And Arsenal, they've actually come in. They started at 5-2 plus 250, and they've now come into 2-1, because the feeling is that piece for Arsenal, that puzzle piece, is so significant that they will now automatically be a stronger side and therefore a stronger contender for the Premier League crown to Liverpool than Arsenal were last season. In the end, Arsenal fell away. They didn't really put up too much of a fight. They had too many injuries, but now they have some significant squad depth by bringing in Gyökeres, by bringing in Zubimendi, and by bringing in Madueke, a signing that was heavily criticised by Arsenal supporters at the time. I think Arsenal supporters, some of them will probably regret the way they acted about that, because obviously they were impatient and they knew the number 9 was the priority, and it looked like these number 9s were slipping through their fingers. There was even a rumour that Manchester United were preferred by, not by Gyökeres the player who's always wanted Arsenal, but Sporting Lisbon preferred to deal with Manchester United because Manchester United were willing to pay more. But I don't think that was ever true, and that would be concerning to me if I was an Arsenal supporter, because why is Ruben Amorim, the manager who was responsible for Gyökeres' best seasons, helped improve this player? Because don't forget, this player's already played for Brighton and for Coventry and ended up going to Sporting Lisbon and didn't really light English football on fire. He's gone to Portugal and has done unbelievably well there, scored bags of goals. And a lot of people do credit Ruben Amorim's coaching. So why were Manchester United not in the hunt? Or was it just so very clear that Gyökeres wanted Arsenal and only Arsenal from the very beginning? And obviously Manchester United now have a policy where they no longer want to sign players unless those players are fully committed to Manchester United. And that would explain some of the outgoings at Manchester United as well. Rashford's gone on loan to Barcelona. Manchester United are still waiting to listen to offers or willing to possibly loan out Anthony, Garnacho and Malacia as well. And I don't know what the situation is with Jadon Sancho. For a long time, it looked like he was going to Juve. It looked like we were just involved in the bidding game in terms of turning down offers until eventually we reached an asking price. With Sancho's wages, I would just get rid of him for any price. But he remains a Manchester United player, as does Garnacho, as does Malacia, and as does Anthony, with Anthony seemingly the most likely to go out the door. But Ruben Amorim did something very clever in his press conference. He said that there are prices for these players, and if those prices are not met, they'll be integrated back into the squad as Manchester United players. Now, whether anybody believes that or not, whether they'll call his bluff, remains to be seen. But that's basically telling everyone, pay the price, because whilst we previously made the mistake to say that these players were very quite clearly surplus to requirements, we're now saying that we can integrate them back into the lineup. So that's going to mean that people now possibly, if they buy into that, won't believe that they can pick up Manchester United players for cheap. But it's been a decent window, I think, so far for United, even though we've not acquired two significant targets that we probably should have prioritised in terms of a goalkeeper and a centre forward. I think Mbeumo and Cunha are decent signings, and I'm going to talk about that over on BetMUFC. I'm going to give an update on BetMUFC. That's going to be out within 24 hours of the show. So I don't want to waste too much time on Manchester United. I do want to talk about other teams that we don't talk about over on BetMUFC, which is all of the other clubs. But I'm going to keep it here at the top of the league. I'm not going to kind of drift down to your relegation situation, but I will mention this. Brentford could be in significant trouble. For them to still be available at around about plus 350 to be relegated from this league could be one of the best bets of the season. Now, this was something that I picked up on early doors in the window because I saw the rumours circulating around that a lot of Brentford players wanted out of the club, especially after the departure of Thomas Frank, who's gone to Tottenham. And at this point, I'm just going to play my short form content, my video from YouTube. This is the kind of content you'll be getting over there. Not only have I done the team previews for the bigger clubs, I did a recap, I did the previews, but I also posted this relegation video giving my early views, and it very much looks like we got some CL. We're going to get some CLV there for sure, because Brentford at the time I did this video were at 9-2, and those odds now are around about plus 300, plus 350, which I still think offers up value, given the fact that Norgard now has gone to Arsenal, given the fact that Mbeumo has gone to Manchester United, given the fact that Thomas Frank is the Tottenham manager, and now they're talking about Wissa being heavily linked to either Tottenham or Newcastle, with Tottenham being his preference to go and play with Thomas Frank again. But Newcastle could be in need of a striker. They are linked to Sesko, but they are also linked to Wissa. But let me play this video and then we will circle back to the teams at the top of the table.
We've been seeing an interesting trend in the Premier League over the last two seasons. That trend being the newly promoted teams who come up to the EPL have all gone straight back down. We saw it in 23-24 and we saw it again in the 24-25 season. Now, heading into 25-26, the situation seems like it could be the same again, with the newly promoted teams all favourites to go straight back down. Sunderland at 1-3 minus 300, Burnley at 1-2 minus 200, and Leeds at 4-5 minus 125. But I have a feeling that that trend could come to an end. It's not because I'm particularly high on Leeds, Burnley or Sunderland, but it's because I'm concerned about Wolves and Brentford. Wolves continue to sell their best players. They sold Kilman to West Ham this season before he was key in their defence, and now this season they have sold Cunha to Manchester United. As for Brentford, how will they cope with Thomas Frank going to Tottenham? He was key to who Brentford were. He was part of their DNA. He got players who, whilst they didn't look like Premier League players on paper, they overperformed under the guidance of Thomas Frank. Now you have a very average looking squad without that manager who got more out of you, and you have the likes of Bryan Mbeumo looking for a move elsewhere, being linked to both Tottenham and Manchester United. How are these two teams going to cope, and are they going to be part of ending the trend where the newly promoted teams go straight back down to the Championship this season?
So that's the kind of content you can find over on YouTube, over at the Soccer Gambling Podcast YouTube channel. Be sure to subscribe. It's short form, easy digestible content, and you just got a ton of information. And that video was recorded before there were any rumours about Wissa or Norgard. I knew that they were going to lose their manager. I knew Manchester United and Tottenham were both battling it out for Mbeumo. And for me, that was enough to take a punt on Brentford at 9-2. They're now available at 7-2, but I do still think there is value on that selection. So we're not going to spend too much time on relegation. We'll focus on that when we do start doing our Premier League futures shows. It's going to be a two-parter. We want to stay here at the top of the table where most of the business has been done. And as we were alluding to Thomas Frank there, let's talk about Tottenham. Tottenham are under new management. Thomas Frank has left Brentford to go to Spurs. Ange Postecoglou shockingly sacked after finally delivering a trophy to Tottenham. But Thomas Frank will take the reins. That's going to make Tottenham look very different. They're going to play very different. I'm not sure they're going to be so high up the pitch. Ange Postecoglou was married to Ange Ball. He was married to this attacking style. He was married to getting players high up the pitch, which was definitely the wrong thing to do when you lost Mickey van der Ven. Mickey van der Ven was key the prior season in terms of tracking back. He had unbelievable pace. And when there was a ball over the top and when Tottenham Hotspur lost the ball in transition, Mickey van der Ven was able to cover that space. That ended up being Tottenham's undoing when they continued to play that way without Mickey van der Ven. And by the time he was back in the side, Tottenham were probably looking like they couldn't even finish in the top half, yet even the European places, and solely then decided to focus on the Europa League, which is why I do believe the league position was misleading. But it was enough for Levy to sack Postecoglou. I'm not sure if you would have kept him if he finished any higher. What was good enough at that point? 14th, 13th, 12th? I'm not sure. I think a bottom half finish is unacceptable for Spurs. I think a bottom half finish is unacceptable for Manchester United, my own team, as well. But Tottenham in the end ended up winning Europa League, and they are playing in the Champions League, and Thomas Frank will now manage in the Champions League. And it looked like he was going to get significant investment, and I imagine that investment is still there. But it's been quite a Spursy window for Tottenham. Only Spurs can find themselves in a situation where they pretty much had a player signed, and then suddenly, after triggering the release clause, the owner of the club goes nuts. He starts going off at the media. He starts going off at agents because apparently only 3 people knew the release clause of Morgan Gibbs-White, and one of them wasn't Tottenham. And in the end, Morgan Gibbs-White hasn't gone to Tottenham. He's ended up signing a new contract with Nottingham Forest. And the video that Forest put out with Marinakis and Gibbs-White standing together announcing this can only be described as something resembling a hostage video. Have a listen to this.
I would never let anybody from any other team try to get a player from us or make something that we don't agree. And especially, as I said, with some guys that they belong to our family. Therefore, with Morgan, didn't take long to come to an agreement. It was a very short conversation, full of passion and love for the club. So when you have passion, when you have love for something, it's a matter of a few seconds to agree. And all our supporters should know that this guy loves the club.
I'm delighted. So thank you to Mr. Marinakis for believing in me. I feel like we've been on a roller coaster of a journey, but I've felt the love instantly from the very first moment I stepped into the doors. We've had difficult times, but we've had a lot of highs. And last year was really, really exciting. We got to showcase what we're about and what we're trying to build as a team. And I feel like Mr. Marinakis is the base of that. So I was delighted to sign.
I think this new contract really shows the ambition, not just of yourself, but of Mr. Marinakis here as well. That ambition must just drive through the dressing room, right?
100%. And Mr. Marinakis is the main reason for that. We've built that culture inside the dressing room, and I feel like that's what strived us all the way through. The manager's been incredible since he's come in. The fans as well. The fans have been absolutely amazing from the very first moment I've joined, and to give them back European football. it's something that we're, as a dressing room, as a team, as a club, we are all really proud about, because they're the ones that deserve it the most, because they're the ones that pay the hard-earned money, show up on the weekends and, come and watch us play, and support us and cheer us. So they're the ones who deserve it the most.
So Morgan Gibbs-White staying at Nottingham Forest. Tottenham missing out. But Tottenham have managed to commit to signing Matthias Tell. He was on loan there from Bayern Munich. That surprises me, because I don't think Matthias Tell really lit up the Premier League or did anything great for Tottenham. So obviously Thomas Frank sees something in him and wants to keep him. And they've also signed Mohamed Kudus from West Ham. Again, he didn't light the Premier League up last season. Obviously, we saw flashes of the player there that West Ham signed from Ajax. But now Mohamed Kudus is a Tottenham player. And these players will all be playing in the Champions League. What it probably means is that Son Heung-min could be out of the Tottenham first 11. There are rumours circulating that Son could be moving to the MLS, with LAFC interested in him. And that would mean there's a change of captaincy at Tottenham, with probably Christian Romero being installed as the new captain. At this point in time, we don't know anything for sure. Tell is still very young. He's 20 years old. Kudus is ready to play. Tell, as I said, wasn't great last year, and maybe they feel that he needs more development, and perhaps Son will remain a starter, but Tell will start to up his minutes as the season progresses. I'm not sure how they're going to play it. What I do know is they do need to continue to spend. They do need to go and sign someone to replace Morgan Gibbs-White. Even though it wasn't their player, it was all but announced. Fabrizio Romano, who rarely gets things wrong, did say that Morgan Gibbs-White was a done deal. Tottenham triggered a release clause, and Marinakis just said, no, it's not happening, and it didn't happen. And Morgan Gibbs-White is now on that hostage video, as I said, confirming that he's staying at Nottingham Forest. He has signed a new deal. The result of all of this sees Tottenham as big as 5-1 to finish in the top four. They are behind Manchester United at 4-1, and Aston Villa are also above Tottenham here at 4-1, and they've done absolutely no business. In fact, thanks to PSR, many people believe they need to sell players. It's then a big jump up to Newcastle, who are at 2-1. Newcastle themselves have to sell players to buy players, even though they have the richest owners in the Premier League. PSR means that Newcastle still have to sell before they can buy. And I think it's almost a guarantee that Newcastle will be in the market for a striker, because it looks very much like Isak is going to leave. And the more Newcastle dig their heels in, and the more that they let this drag, and the more they hold out for money, damages their own situation in terms of bringing in a replacement, unless they want to keep a player who doesn't want to play for them. But they're entitled to do that. And you can be rest assured, if Newcastle do keep Isak will continue to play as an actual striker, whilst if he moves to Liverpool, we don't know if he's actually going to be playing in a centre-forward position, because they've already signed Ekitike. And I'm pretty sure when he signed for Liverpool, he didn't know that his position was going to be up for debate. Obviously, with what unfortunately happened with Diego Jota, it did mean Liverpool were light in the striking department, so probably did need to sign an extra player. But at the moment, they also still have Darwin Núñez on their books as well. So it'll be interesting to see what more business Liverpool do between now and the end of the window. Obviously, I think Isak's a shoo-in, but it'll be interesting to see who goes out at Liverpool. After Newcastle at 2-1, we have two teams we've not really talked about yet, and they've had very interesting windows. Chelsea at 4-6 to finish in at the top four, and Manchester City are a very, very short price at 1-4 -400. In fact, they're even shorter. They're as short as -500 in some places after doing a load of business that in fact takes Pep Guardiola's overall spend in the Premier League past the £2 billion mark. And he's the first manager, and I've always said he's a checkbook manager, to pass the £2 billion mark based on the business that Manchester City have done in this window.
He's got it again, the Argentine. Lovely layback. Cole Palmer round the back of the goal. He thought it was in. Half the crowd thought it was in. Brilliant move. Gusto's interested here. He's got the better of Nuno Mendes. Malo Gusto, tight angle. Pulls it back for Palmer.
Sanchez pass to Gusto again on tower. Outstanding! Outstanding, man! Outstanding!
Cole Palmer, the main man for the big occasion. And Chelsea lead the Club World Cup final, and it's all kicking off. Maybe they're expecting more space.
Behind the fullbacks again.
Luis Enrique turns around in disgust. Here's Cole Palmer in a dangerous area again. He's bought himself some room, and he's found the corner again.
It's amazing! It's unbelievable! He's incredible! He's unbelievable! It's Cole Palmer! Again! Again! Again!
He's on a Club World Cup final hat-trick. He loves that bottom corner, all right, of this tournament. Chelsea 2, Paris Saint-Germain 0, half an hour played in New Jersey. Tear up the scripts that everybody had written, because at the moment, blue is very much the colour. Cole Palmer's just run 50 yards without a challenge. Oh, it's a clever pass. João Pedro 3-0. Dreamland for Chelsea.
It's unbelievable! It's unbelievable! We're ripping them apart!
A scoreline that's creating echoes around the world. Chelsea 3, Paris Saint-Germain 0. It's not even half-time.
Ben, take a bow, Cole Palmer. How much space has he got? 3-0 Chelsea!
And the Club World Cup belongs to Chelsea Football Club. An incredible finale to an incredible campaign.
So Chelsea stunned the world by winning the Club World Cup. We were obviously riding a future on Paris Saint-Germain. Fortunately, we're able to put out a hedge. I always am an advocate for hedging because profit is more important than bravery. There's nothing brave about being the ride or die degen that lost money on that final. We made a profit from the World Cup overall. We made a significant profit from the World Cup overall. In fact, we really came to life in the knockout stages, had an incredible round of 16, swept the semi-finals. Those were both given out as locks when we were launching the YouTube. And overall, it was a good World Cup. And we still made a profit from the final, even though we ended up picking the wrong team. And I don't think anybody had Chelsea to win it. I thought Chelsea were going to give it a 100% effort because Todd Bowley wanted this tournament in his own country and there was a lot of money involved, which is great for Chelsea's PSR. But Chelsea have done some really, really good business in this window. They beat Manchester United to the signature of Liam Delap, who wanted him as our striker. Estavio had a really good Club World Cup. He wasn't playing for Chelsea, but he had a good Club World Cup playing against them, and now is their player. And João Pedro came in off the beach, signed from Brighton, and immediately lit it up as a Chelsea player. Chelsea have also added Jamie Gittins. They've got decent money for João Felix, who's out the door. They want to get rid of Nicholas Jackson. I think they're willing to sell Nkunku as well. They could potentially be interested in bringing in Garnacho from Manchester United. They also already have the likes of Pedro Neto there as well. I think they're going to need to strengthen up at the back or in a goalkeeping position. I think that would be their priority moving forward. But this is a strong team. When you're looking at the likes of Cole Palmer, who absolutely lit up that final, you already have Enzo Fernandez, you have Caicedo, you have Levi Colwill, you have Cucurella, you've now added João Pedro, you've added Jamie Gittins. You've got Christopher Nkunku already there, even though he doesn't play and could be on his way out. Pedro Neto, Reece James is fit again and he's playing well in the fullback position. This is a really, really strong Chelsea team who could do something this season. I think they're a good price to finish in that top four at 4 to 6 minus 150. You could parlay that together with something else from maybe another league. I saw that Bayern Munich at around about 2 to 7. to win the Bundesliga, and I think that's an absolute lock for me. So I think Chelsea could do good things this season. I think they could build on a Club World Cup. They could definitely win another trophy. They've shown that they know how to play in cup finals. They know how to play big games. That's why they ended up winning the Europa Conference League, and why they have also lifted the Club World Cup as well. By contrast, Manchester City have shown that they don't know how to play the big game lately. They've had a very poor season. They did end up finishing in the top four and qualifying for the Champions League, and they tried to salvage things further by winning a trophy and lifting the FA Cup and winning the FA Cup final, but they were beaten by Crystal Palace. They then went on to get eliminated from the Club World Cup at the hands of Al Hilal. After looking so strong in the group stage, Man City were actually installed as favourites to win the competition. And I did say that I didn't agree with that, because Manchester City had a very, very comfortable start to the competition. And when they finally came up against a competent opponent in Juventus, for some reason, heavily rotated their players for that final group game. Manchester City have done a lot of business. I already alluded to earlier that Pep Guardiola becomes the first manager to go past 2 billion. At the back end of last season, they added the likes of Marmoush and Kuzanov. They've now added Echeverry, who's a midfielder, Reinders, Cherky, who is a player who was wanted by a lot of clubs in Europe because of the number of assists that he was providing for Lyon. But in the end, he's ended up going to Man City. Obviously, in January window, they added Nico Gonzalez, who was supposed to cover for Rodri. Rodri's back as well. That's going to feel like a new player. Al-Nouri has come in from Wolves. So they've done a lot of business. But as I'm reading these names out, and they've also re-signed back their old goalkeeper Trafford, by the way. But as I'm reading these names out, you're probably getting the feeling these aren't household names. Now, Man City have not necessarily always gone for household names or players that were very in demand. They've always relied on good scouting, and that's been successful for them. And the secret to this the secret to Man City's success has been that Guardiola manages the team, but the potential transfers are identified elsewhere, and it's been a good working relationship. But now there are so many ins and potentially so many outs, especially as Guardiola has said he wants a smaller squad. We are now putting Guardiola in a position where he's going to have to rebuild a team. Guardiola's never done that. It's been very much a case of 2-3 in, 2-3 out, slowly replacing the players who seem surplus to requirements and then bringing in what you need to strengthen. But to lose Kevin De Bruyne and to potentially lose Bernardo Silva and Gundogan, or for these players to be less effective, that's a big change for Man City. That's not a case of Aguero's done, let's get rid of Aguero. I think Sterling's done, get rid of Sterling. I think De Bruyne's done, let's find a replacement for De Bruyne. This is Man City replacing a lot of players in a lot of key positions. They've got a new goalkeeper. They've gone out and tried to replace Kyle Walker, who they didn't replace effectively last season. They've padded out the midfield. Throughout the Club World Cup, I got the feeling, and I don't know how true this is, but I just got the feeling that Man City were ready to move forward without Erling Haaland as a guaranteed starter. Now, obviously, when you've got Haaland there and Haaland scores so many goals, it's very difficult to leave him out. But Pep Guardiola has often been an advocate for the false nine, and I did see Man City trying to play with Marmoush as a false nine, which obviously gives them extra numbers in the midfield. If you have that player who can drop inside and you want players to overlap around you and get past you, which would be the likes of a Phil Foden, that's a very different way to play as opposed to having a number 9, and quite a static number 9. Erling Haaland is the type of player who's very much not involved in the game for large periods, and I think rather than dropping Haaland, what I saw signs of is that if Haaland's going to play, then Pep Guardiola wants to create a different version of Haaland. And we saw in a small sample size during the Club World Cup that Haaland was trying to get more involved in the play. I'm telling you this now, Erling Haaland can't get involved in the play. He's not a good enough footballer to do it. And for me, if you're going to try and turn Erling Haaland into Harry Kane, where Harry Kane drops in and gets involved in a play, you're going to take goals out of Erling Haaland's game. You're going to damage his confidence. And while you think it might be bad to have a stationary number 9 who doesn't get involved in the play, and in games where you're not creating chances for him, it does feel like you're playing for 10 men, whilst Pep Guardiola probably doesn't want that because he wants to have the feel of having 11 on the pitch. I think it's going to be a lot worse when Haaland can't do the job and he's ineffective dropping back, and then he's not in the right position to score the goals, which is why I think Marmoush could emerge as a preference. And my big take from this show when it comes to Man City, at least, is that Erling Haaland could be looking for a new club at the end of the season, because I just don't think he suits the way that Guardiola wants to play. I'm not sure if Erling Haaland was ever a Pep Guardiola signing. Now, that seems crazy to say because obviously the signing has worked. They signed him and they won the Champions League, which was a target for a long, long time. But overall, when I watch the Club World Cup, I'm not sure, I'm definitely not sure, in fact, that Erling Haaland is 100% an automatic starter. I think they will start him. I think they'll try and find a way to get him into the team, try and get him more involved, which is going to mean Erling Haaland's going to be trying to create more assists and do things that I don't think he's good enough to do and not comfortable to do. I don't think you can turn Haaland into Harry Kane. If Pep Guardiola manages to do it, if Pep Guardiola manages to get these players playing for him, if he can rebuild the team, if he can recreate Haaland and turn him into a Ballon d'Or winning footballer who contributes assists to his game and score goals, and this version of Manchester City with all these new players coming in end up winning the Premier League, finishing ahead of Arsenal and Liverpool, who for me are the main two contenders, then I definitely think Pep Guardiola is actually in the conversation to be called the greatest Premier League manager ever. And as a Man United fan, that hurts me to say it, because for me, Sir Alex Ferguson is an absolute automatic based on what he's done for Manchester United and how he dominated the Premier League for so long in the best era of the Premier League and the 2 Champions Leagues that he's won. But Pep Guardiola moves more into that conversation than ever. In fact, I think that puts him clear of Jose Mourinho. I mean, he should be clear of him anyway, but as I said, I just think he's a checkbook manager, whilst Jose Mourinho was a brilliant tactician, which I don't actually think Pep Guardiola is. But if he does manage to do this, if he rebuilds Man City with the number of new players they need coming in, looking at goalkeeper, fullbacks, a new midfield, a different way of playing, you're changing your number 9, who's an out-and-out goal scorer, I think that would be a phenomenal achievement from Pep Guardiola, and even I would have to give him credit and give this team credit, even though they are cheats, even though they do fiddle the books. I don't know how, when you're under investigation, you manage to find all this money and bring in all these players. But that's Man City. They've cheated for years and they've cheated again, and there will be an asterisk for many people if they do manage to win this Premier League and Pep Guardiola does manage to rebuild and do it again, as there is an asterisk for many people attached to everything that they've done under Guardiola so far. So they're the main teams I wanted to discuss. Haven't said too much about Aston Villa, but Aston Villa haven't done too much. So obviously there's a time and a place where we can talk about your West Hams and your Evertons and your Nottingham Forests and your relegation threatened teams, but that's going to all come on the future show, and all that's going to come in the next few weeks as we are recording. We are just over 2 weeks away now from the start of the Premier League season. So there is going to be a 2-part future show looking at the outright market, looking at the top 4, looking at the relegation odds. In the more present future, we are going to be looking at Manchester United again. We're looking at that summer tour, looking at what Ruben Amorim said about Manchester United transfer business, who may be leaving, who else may be coming in. We do need a goalkeeper, we need a striker. I'll also be dropping an FPL special looking ahead to the Fantasy Premier League. We do that every season. I give away a signed shirt of the winner's choice, and we'll be doing that again as per usual. So you can enter the SGPN Mini League now. So look out for my FPL preview, my Fantasy Premier League preview. That will also be dropping in the next 24 hours alongside the latest episode of BetMUFC. To get all of my official plays, as you guys know by now, head over to lockbetting.com. That is my service that has delivered 145 months in a row of tracked and transparent profit. The latest spreadsheets always are pinned to my social media. So at SGP Soccer on X, or you can head over to Instagram. Instagram is a hub for everything we do. It's at Lock Betting. There you'll find all the latest spreadsheets. You'll find the latest 3 pinned to the top. You'll also find free bets and betting information video. And it's also a place to contact me if you have any questions about anything related to lockbetting.com. That's it for me. Good luck with all your bets as always, guys. And thanks for listening.